Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer.
Amen.
I apologize if my voice is a little bit shaky today. I've been fighting a bug all week, and it's now decided to rest in here. Been moving around. Several years ago, I think it was on a Sunday afternoon, we were at home, and suddenly there was a loud crash. I think it was the first Sunday in Advent, but I'm not sure about that. It was about this time of year before, right at the beginning of the holiday season. We looked out the window and it caused this loud crash, and there was a car that had hit a utility pole head on, straight on. And the pole forcibly after the crash and pushed the engine back into the driver's area. We feared for the worst. It was a car was just damaged beyond any repair, obviously, but we worried about the driver. I called 911. They responded very quickly. And they ended up using a tool to cut the car apart in order to get into where the driver was. There was just one person in the car. It looked to me from a distance it was a young woman, but I'm not sure of that. And after a lot of work, literally dismantling the automobile, the rescue people got the person out. She looked lifeless. And they placed her on a stretcher and put her in an ambulance and went off to the hospital with the siren wailing. I never found out whether she lived or died in that accident. And I never found out what the cause of the accident was. It was very suspicious. It was a busy street, but it wasn't a Sunday afternoon, there wasn't much traffic. And it was as though this utility pole was a magnet that drew the car straight into it, head on, right in the center of the front of the car. Weather conditions were fine. So I've been wondering about that accident for years now. Did she fall asleep? Was she drinking or on drugs? Was it intentional? It's a possibility. And then I started wondering, well, in the gospel for today, Jesus said there would be signs before the end. Now, for this young woman, it was the end. Whether she lived or died, it was the end. She was obviously severely injured. If she survived those injuries, wonderful, but her life would never be the same after that crash. She might spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. Who knows? I don't know. But I wondered, and it kind of fed into my ideas about just what might have happened in this crash. Were there signs in this young woman's life that warning signs that maybe only she knew about, but had internalized it? No, it's not just auto crashes that are endings of one sort or another. This past week, the workers at General Motors plants in Canada and the United States were laid off. 15,000 people lost their jobs, or will lose their jobs. Plants close, or will close. Plants that employed people, and I've heard in the news, read in the paper, that this one plant in Ohio is a particularly effective plant at building Chevy automobiles. And these people who've worked there for years not only have lost their jobs, but the community has lost a center of manufacturing. That's an ending. There are other kind of endings. We all have friends and family come back from the doctors with a diagnosis of something that could be life-threatening. Cancer. Sometimes the diagnosis itself is an ending. people are diagnosed with severe cancer, sometimes the options for treatment are worse than the disease. And so they decide to just carry on, knowing that sooner or later they will succumb to the illness. And then there are relationships, friendships, marriages that end, fall apart. And again, life is not the same as it was before. We have to be realistic, recognize that there are endings in life. Jesus, in this section of Luke's Gospel, details a number of events and images that overlap. They don't form a consistent thread. Probably the clearest is the parable about the fig tree, or any other tree, Jesus said. When you see leaves on the tree, you know that summer is coming. Not week calendars that have written on the first day of spring, so on. So we don't need to pay attention to the leaves to see what season it is. But in ancient times, Jesus' time, farmers depended upon nature to give them signs of when it was time to plant, when it was time to harvest. When the trees started producing buds, leaves, that was a signal that the weather was the right time to plant their crops, whatever it was. So that it had more importance to them than it does to us when we see leaves on the tree. We say, oh, thank goodness, we've got spring now after a bleak winter. There's green on the trees. But it doesn't have the same effect or importance for us as it did for Jesus' immediate audience. But we all know that when we see certain things happening, like a cancer diagnosis, that it can lead to an ending of some kind or another. Even if it's not death, it is a change of life. Things are no longer the way they were. Sometimes it affects not just individuals, but whole communities. This past week there was an earthquake in Alaska. Alaska has had earthquakes before. I've been to Alaska many times. And in downtown Anchorage there is a place called Earthquake Park, which is where the earth cleaved, separated in a major way on the Good Friday earthquake. This was not as severe, but it's a reminder of how fragile life can be. There was a sign that the earth is unstable in that part of the world. When I was a child, or a teenager, it seemed that nuclear war was almost inevitable. In the late 50s, early 60s, the United States and the USSR, Soviet Union, were building bigger and better missiles and atomic bombs, testing them, threatening each other, taking aggressive action that could lead to some kind of conflict, could result in the use of nuclear weapons. And of course, we had air raid drills in schools. And I always thought it was kind of stupid to hide under your desk to avoid nuclear radiation. But we did it. But it added to the tension, the anxiety. Then I went to college in 1962. And during the fall, there was a Cuban Missile Crisis, when it really seemed that the President of the United States, the Chairman of the Communist Party of Russia, could make decisions that could destroy the Earth. Destroy the societies, the big Earth, as well as the planet itself. A chain reaction of nuclear explosions seemed possible. And I know my student colleagues, college, talked about that. What's our future hanging under this cloud of nuclear warfare and nuclear destruction? And that came a movie, Dr. Strangelove, which devastating nuclear war could happen almost by accident, inadvertently. Endings. They're major and they're less major, but they affect each of us. So you might ask, this, the New Year's Day for the church, first Sunday of Advent is like New Year's Day on the church calendar. Why are we focusing on endings rather than beginnings? It's the beginning of the church year. We're anticipating and preparing in this first season of Advent, first season of the church year, for the great event of the birth of Christ, Christmas. Why are we talking about endings? It's a beginning. We're talking about endings because it's a reminder to us that the year that has ended, the church year that's ended, is over. And the new year is fresh. It's a new start. Yes, we'll go through the same sequence of church seasons: Advent, Christmas, Epiphany, Lent, Easter, Pentecost. Those are the same. But last year had its own auto crashes, its own layoffs, its own cancer diagnoses, and its own ending of relationships. The year ahead will have its crashes, layoffs, diagnoses, and ending relationships. So our spiritual life in the new year needs to be ready for what's new and different. If we expect this coming year to be the same as the one that ended, we're in a rut. We're stuck. We don't know how God works, because God works in a way that's always bringing new things out of old. Things end that create possibilities for something new to take its place. That's the way God works. And the church calendar reminds us of that God's cycle in life. So we don't just focus on the endings, we look for the new life, the fresh starts, the beginnings. In 1992, I went to an exhibit at the National Gallery of Art in the Mall. It was called Circa 1492. It was the 500th anniversary of Columbus sailing from Spain to these shores. Some people say, of course, Columbus discovered America, but it was here. It was here before he got here. He just found a way to it. Well, this exhibit was constructed of artwork from the 1400s, juxtaposed to artwork in the 1500s, both in Europe. It was limited strictly to European art. Most of it was paintings, there were some sculptures. It was a very diverse exhibit, but its message was inescapable. The paintings in the 1400s chronologically grew more and more bleak and pessimistic. The paintings after 1492 grew more positive and optimistic because an earth-changing event had occurred. America had not been discovered, but Europeans had discovered America and its resources. And that changed Europe for the good. The most riveting painting in this exhibit was by Hieronymus Bosch. It was called The Temptations of St. Anthony. It portrayed European society so harshly and negatively that it was hard to look at. It was a huge painting, about the size of these windows. Great detail. All around were glimpses people doing immoral, unethical, illegal things. Monks were portrayed in immoral acts with nuns. People were portrayed taking bribes. It was a portrait of society breaking down in all its aspects: corruption, torture, degradation, and so forth. In the center of this painting, there was a cage, as if to separate the person in the cave from all of this crumbling society around him. That was St. Anthony, the cage. And he was portrayed kneeling at an altar, holding a crucifix and praying. We don't know what exactly St. Anthony is praying about, but it's easy to guess. He's praying about society. You see, Europe at that time, in the 1400s, was stuck. It felt isolated and landlocked. It was relying only on its own resources, which were becoming exhausted. It needed to go elsewhere to find what it needed, but it didn't know how to do it. Christopher Columbus showed how it was done, taking a risk, and sailing west to go east. You all know the stories. But what a payoff. In many respects, good and evil combined. But it gave Europe a fresh start. Europe was able to see that it wasn't isolated, it wasn't landlocked, it wasn't stuck. There was a world out there that it could explore and discover, and, we must say, exploit people and resources. But it changed the attitude from pessimism to optimism, from fear to adventure. And then followed the other explorers who ultimately found a way around the world, discovered lands that weren't even dreamed of. You see how that cycle, that transition, when you feel stuck, it's negative, it's positive. When there's some reason for rejuvenation, for renewal, for a fresh start, it pervades society and is reflected in its heart. That cycle is the way God works. Things come to an end. Good things come to an end. And that's not the end of the story. God brings new possibilities out of those endings. New possibilities that we may not have thought of, and we may not immediately recognize as a future. It may take some time for us to work with these new possibilities to bring them to fruition. We're Easter people. When bad things happen, like Good Friday, it's not the last word with God. With God, there are possibilities that are transforming and that change lives. Easters, fresh starts, new beginnings. So when we get down, there's a lot of reason right now to be discouraged. It's happening in this country, the divisive nature of our leadership, and other developments around the world. It's hard to be optimistic. It's hard to see a positive future. But we have to have faith that that's how God works. Something positive will come out of this. And what can we do, we ask ourselves, to advance that? What can we do to help that take root? So you see, Advent is, in effect, closing the book on last year and opening a new book for this coming year of the church. And will see things differently because we will be different and the circumstances will be different. We have to be willing to do what the discoverers did. Take a risk to see in faith what God is doing in the world and in our lives. And then to align ourselves with that, with the expectation that new possibilities will come out of it. You see, life's an adventure. And I keep recognizing that the word Advent fits in the word adventure. So Advent is the beginning of a year of adventure with God, discovering what Christ has for us in this congregation and in our daily lives. Advent adventure.